Hey guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at the Be Quiet Light Base 900DX. Now, Be Quiet makes some terrific cases in both aesthetics, build quality, as well as the engineering behind it. That's one of the reasons why years ago I would absolutely love building in their cases. Everything was just a little bit different than like the regular cases you get off the shelf that all seem to have the same tooling. For example, on the Be Quiet, the Dark Base 900, that case in my opinion was an absolute masterpiece. And you could do, invert the motherboard. You could have space for hard drives, which was cool back in the day. But Be Quiet really keeps up with the trends and the time. And this new one is probably my favorite so far. Really, really awesome case. You have the visuals inside are just stunning because you have the glass, basically what they call like a panoramic view on the front and the side panel, which nowadays that's what it's all about, right? Back then you would have sort of just it wasn't even glass. It was maybe like the plexiglass or something like that on something like a Corsair 900D, going back years and years, or the Case Labs case. Now you want something that you can see from different angles, something that's still large to fit the latest stuff. And that's going to be another big selling point of this case. It can fit your 5090 if you're the one or two people that got one, or your 4090, 5080, 4080. Those are all really big GPUs, even like 4070. Some of them, like an Asus Strix, for example, was big. It's a big GPU, and you can't fit it in a little case, especially with a little bit of funny issues with the cables and stuff. You want to make sure it's plugged in securely. A case like this is going to allow you to do that really, really easy. Before you even get to aesthetics or anything else, the size is good and it looks good. That's already a big starting point for a case. Because if I look at a case and it's not the right size for the project that I want or the build, that's already no good. This is really, really, in my opinion, the sweet spot because it's big enough to fit the great stuff, but it's also not massive. It's not something that's going to take up a huge footprint like some of the cases in the past, and it just looks good. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. Of course, it also comes with an ARGB LED strip. That way it just helps to illuminate more of what's going on in the case as well. And you can also do the inverted or horizontal layout, very quickly, very nicely. That's another great thing about this case. When the cases have these little, I won't call them Easter eggs, but just features that maybe other cases don't. When you buy a typical PC case, you just expect it to have, basically the same type of layout. But like I said, Be Quiet, they do things a little differently. They add things that make a huge difference in aesthetics. If you've ever seen, for example, an inverted motherboard on a really cool build, like I did one with water cooling on a Dark Base 900 years ago, and it's absolutely stunning, and it kind of throws your brain for a little bit of a refresh, if you will, because you don't expect it, right? You don't expect the motherboard to be upside down, but when you see it and the GPU's upside down, but it's nicely done, it's just the coolest thing in the world. So I'm glad that they have things like that, inverted, horizontal. They have really cool things in this. I mean, you can fit two 420 millimeter radiators in this case, which you can have a dual loop going. You can have so many things going if you're doing like custom water cooling, or even if you just have a regular AIO or something like that. You can definitely put a lot of fans for intake and exhaust. You can do a lot with this case in terms of the airflow. And since the Light Base DX fits 420 millimeter radiators in it, you can fit two. It's only going to be appropriate that I'm going to use for my CPU. This is going to be the Silent Loop 3, and this is going to be the 420 millimeter version. Like, this is an absolute monster of a radiator, and even though I'm only going to put a 9800X3D, it's going to be massive overkill, but it's going to give you lots of headroom. Whatever GPU you have in there, you can also really direct the airflow whichever direction that you want. And of course, this AIO also comes with 340 millimeter fans. They go up to about 1900 RPM. They're pretty quiet if you really, work on your fan curve while putting up lots of air. So they're fantastic for radiators and also for airflow. I've liked using these fans ever since they were released. I've always used these Be Quiet fans. The new versions are really, really quite excellent. And this AIO is just going to be absolutely perfect. I mean, if a case fits 420 millimeters, when you're an enthusiast, even if you could, cool your CPU with a 360 or a 240, it's nice to do a little bit overkill, because then if you upgrade the CPU in the future, who knows what AMD is going to bring. They usually keep the same, like AM5 is going to be around for a very long time. Who knows if I decide to go to a 9950X3D? That pulls more power, so you need more cooling. Even the motherboard, you can fit an EATX motherboard. Not every case can do that. Like sometimes you want to get that big, beefy motherboard. That I remember I used to get the Threadripper, like the Asus ones, and even the Extreme motherboards, and they wouldn't fit in a lot of cases just because they're going to be bigger than the standard ones. So something like this, you could definitely do it. You do install the 420 millimeter radiators. You can do it outside of the case because you have brackets. I know how hard it's been on some cases to install a radiator. You got to get in there like upside down. Sometimes getting the fan screws are almost impossible. This one, pull it out with the bracket, you install it, you can make sure everything's not over tightened, not tightened too loosely. There's no little cable in the fan blades or something like that. If you can't see it, that may happen. You can even have motherboards that have the rear connections. This is something that's been happening now more and more, and it allows you to keep your cable management much better than previously. And you can have just the main things like the GPU cable and stuff like that visible, where you can get custom or braided cables, and you can at least minimize whatever cable clutter that you may have. There's a lot of cables going to a PC build. There's no way to avoid it. At the end of the day, a case like this is really meant to display really beautiful hardware in pretty much almost the top level that you can. The ARGB is gorgeous. It comes with the hub, so that way you can control it. You can have up to 10 fans in this case, and imagine if each of them are RGB. You're going to want to have a nice system in place. It comes with an RGB hub controller to really experience them and just like open it up to really feel what it's different compared to a regular case, mainly because you can invert it, you can make it horizontal, you can change the feet on the bottom. That opens up so many possibilities that it's something you almost have to put in your room or your desk, your office, wherever you are. Take a look at it and just think of what you can do that's different. And this case gives you that capability. After you have the case, that's yours to figure out what you want to do with. You want to invert it or switch stuff around. Maybe your hardware is better in a certain angle than somebody else's hardware, and you rather have this orientation. Your GPU may be a little bigger or smaller than another GPU you saw in the build, and maybe inverting it looks really cool, or maybe it works better the other way. So that's really big flexibility. So if you're going to be paying for a case, a premium case, I want it to have these cool features like this. I don't want it to just look like everything else, right? Or else what's the point? You have your GPU holder. I know when you do a beautiful build and your GPU is sagging, the GPUs are just so big now with the air coolers that while they look cool and the cooling performance is great on many of them, sometimes it can sag. It's just more weight than the motherboard is meant to handle. So having these holders, very nice. Some GPUs come with them, some don't. You may have lost yours, so it's nice that the case comes with that as well. So who would this case be for? Obviously, you can put any build in here, from an air-cooled build to an AIO build. I just reviewed Be Quiet's light loop fans. These would be fantastic here. It's hard to say any negatives. If you don't want something that, even though it's not massive, it's still a large case. Some people don't want that, so that would be one negative for you. You may want to get a smaller case. But if you want something that is reasonably sized, you got to consider the type of stuff that can put in. That's really, really cool, because aesthetically, this is where you want to be now with the nice glass in the view, because the hardware, all those look so awesome. Let me know what case you're using down below. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.